Hello and welcome to the newest and most exciting podcast on the block, Box Media Talk, brought to you by Box Media TV, the one and only platform that brings together boxing news, entertainment, features and education, all packaged concisely and nicely as a gift from us to you.
Box Media Talks brought to you by Box Media TV. In the past week and a half, we have seen Burns with the heart, Scottish warrior. We've seen Dillian and Whyte. We've seen Lewsion. We've seen Braehmer against the relentless Cleverly. We've seen the relentless Chamberlain against Camacho. Today's Box Media Talks discussion, no guts, no glory. I'm fighting Ed. In the opposite corner, we have Adrian, the hashtag Greenland. Junior, the Rhodes Johnson. And Terry, Dirt Dog Chapandama. Gentlemen, who saw Chamberlain Camacho? What a fight. Terry.
To be honest, I saw bits of it. I had to catch a very shaky stream, and to be honest, I jumped in and out of it. But people who know my views on Camacho would know that he's had a very charmed career and he's made the most out of the skills that he has. But in someone like Isaac Chamberlain, you had someone who we were unsure about. We knew what he could do technically, but we didn't know what he would do when someone said, I'm not going anywhere. And he showed that, he can find ways around problems, which bodes well for the future. I can't say there was anything clever that was happening in that ring. It was two people fighting for a belt that they both hold dear to their hearts as things stand. And, Wadi realizing that's probably the highest level he's likely to attain. Isaac realizing he needs to legitimize himself as a prospect by doing that in the company of his own peers, because, everyone had about 6 or 7 bouts on that card. So he had to show that, he could be the man. So it was a good performance. Happy for him, on many levels. As for how far he goes from here, I'm a Miguel cynic, as people know. And that's not to say I hate what they do, but I wonder how far they can really take people. So we'll see what Isaac does in the future.
Yeah, two things. I wouldn't describe this or there being one single Miguel's engine. It's not like all these fighters are under one umbrella or one ethical ethos in terms of training. Definitely, technically, and I think there are more levels to come with Chamberlain from what we saw against Camacho. But, round 3 popped his shoulder. Gutsy. If nothing else, he showed he had heart.
He showed it was all on the line. He showed it was all on the line. So I managed to catch an excerpt of the Eddie Hearn interview where he was talking about Isaac Chamberlain, and it's been rumored in the past that they were disillusioned with Isaac. They didn't think he worked hard enough on building his brand and his profile, and they didn't think he was testing himself in the ring. So it was kind of an all or nothing moment for him, and I think he'd had the talking to from Eddie about that. And so when the pressure came on and he realized this was the difference between Matchroom and the small hall shows, he found something deep inside of his reserves of courage to draw on.
I think he showed a lot of.
You have to be better.
Say that again, Ed.
Hashtag. Go on, mate.
Yeah, no, I think he personally showed a lot of guts, definitely in his style within the fight. There were a number of times where he was trading with Camacho brutally. I haven't seen Isaac fight live, so for me it was a good kind of insight into how he fights. I've seen him in Miguel's obviously sparring a few times and stuff, but I haven't seen him live, so I felt like he definitely showed that he's got a chin. He definitely showed he can go toe to toe. I guess for me, it's kind of leading back to Terry's point a little bit as well. In terms of gears, what gear do you think he's operating in now? And do you think he can, if he does operate in gear 5, will it take him to the top?
I haven't seen Isaac fight live, seen him train and stuff like that. I would say it's a terrible indication of how he actually fights. He's a very technical, crisp boxer. Boxes a lot on reflex, instincts, good jab, twists, nice uppercuts. I think it was a great insight, and I think this is why Eddie was so impressed. Eddie Hearn, that is. It was a great insight in terms of the guy's heart. You know, the guy can dig deep. I mean, let's break it down, guys. And Junior, you're good to get some insight from you from the roads here. Right? This guy popped his shoulder out, dislocated his shoulder in the 3rd round, went on to win a 10-round war after having dislocated his shoulder and popped it back in during the break. I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah, it showed plenty of guts for me. I didn't get, like Terry, I didn't get to see much of the fight. But it reminded me from what I heard of, like, when Danny Williams dislocated his shoulder and went on to knock out the guy with one arm. You know, that kind of guts, that kind of bravado. And before the fight, I remember Eddie Hearn talking, like, saying that this was a big, risky fight for Isaac Chamberlain, in a sense, in that I don't think he trained enough for the fight, or it was thrown at him at short notice, and it was just a risk. They were trying to see what he's made of, and he's answered that question fully. He's shown them that he's got pure guts, and he's made of steel.
Agree. I think Audley Harrison did something similar as well. So bear in mind today's topic, guys. No guts, no glory, and you know this is one we're not perhaps not talking too much technical boxing stuff. We're talking about heart, feelings, and emotions, maybe as viewers, as spectators. As the boxing public who lap up these events. Compare that to your Braehmer Cleverly. Braehmer, in round 6 or 7, apparently dislocated his elbow, pulled out. It's now emerged. He's just to mind the muscles here. Compare someone like Chamberlain dislocating his shoulder, popping it back in, going on to win, versus Braehmer pulling out round 7 with a sore elbow. What do you make of that performance? I take your silence as is it disgust? Is it confusion? I was confused. Greenland, what did you think?
There's a few levels to this one. Firstly, guts. I believe Cleverly came to the fight with guts mentally. He approached it kind of with a gutsy attitude that he wanted to get the belt. He wanted to win. The opponent, questionable. Cleverly's skill set, questionable. I think we have to assess, even as Guts and Glory, we have to assess the quality of the fight from a technical perspective. I don't think we can ignore that. And I feel like it was just two guys that stood in front of each other and were just trading. There were a lot of shots traded. Cleverly's shots didn't seem like there was much power behind it. I think in his mind, he showed a lot of guts. As a viewer, I didn't really see too much. The Braehmer thing, there's a lot of kind of speculation around that. Some people are saying, they're going as far as to say he threw the fight so that he could get the rematch. I'm not sure. But it's even the style and the mannerisms when he went out. He didn't really take any genuine punishment. Like I said, the power shots weren't that strong. There wasn't any power behind the shots. So Eddie said he just looked knackered. I possibly agree, but I
tend to agree with that.
I mean, I don't want to go as far as to say it was a fix and question sort of the German authorities and stuff like that, because that's not. I don't have that kind of inside knowledge. But at the end of the day, it was 6 rounds of trading. Fatigue may be a factor, but to pull a muscle in your arm, maybe that argument has some kind of substance behind it. But overall, it wasn't a great spectacle. It wasn't a great spectacle at all.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think technically, I think it was poor. I think Cleverly was in no danger of hurting Braehmer. I think what happened was Cleverly, with his pitter-patter, relentless, probably technically slightly flawed, but nonetheless busy style, he was forcing Braehmer to work and counter at a pace that he was completely unused to at his age as well. I think he got tired. I think he realised he couldn't maintain that tempo. And rather than end up losing due to sheer exhaustion and being embarrassed in that sense, I think they agreed that he'd pull out due to what may or may not have been a genuine injury. Terry, how did you assess it?
I thought Braehmer was smart. He looked at the fight. He said, I have a rematch clause. I know I can beat this guy. So all I'm doing is delaying the inevitable. So why not? If I have an opportunity to do that, let me do that. Let's not forget, this is a business. So when you don't know what the injury is, do you want to run the risk of actually maybe separating your elbow? You know, remember, him and Cleverly were in 2 different positions. Cleverly didn't have that option, because if Cleverly had lost, that was the end for Nathan Cleverly. That was just back down to fighting, Hosea Burton, Callum Johnson and those sorts of characters. That's really where he was headed. So he couldn't have taken that luxury. Braehmer knew if he lost, he got the rematch. If he won, he keeps the belt. So he was in that position where maybe the hunger's not burning as brightly inside of you because you can get him again. If you go back to the fight, I think initially no one expected Cleverly to come in and shut the distance down. There's some clever slipping and movement from Cleverly, which I think he's between styles at the moment. He's trying to redefine his style.
Sorry, Terry. Sorry. There might have been some, maybe it's my ears in my nose. Did you say there was some clever slipping and movement from Cleverly?
There was.
I didn't see him move, Terry. I didn't see him move. He was in the phone box for the whole fight. He just stood literally in front of him and threw a floor jab.
No. Go back and watch how many times he was banging inside and Braehmer's shots were missing. Now, I'm not saying that Cleverly was snapping back with the counters. There was no power in what he was doing. But I haven't seen Cleverly avoid shots like that.
So, Terry, are you suggesting that Cleverly has sat down, studied Mayweather and replicated Mayweather's slips? Because I didn't see them. I did not see them.
Well, I don't know if Mayweather has the patent on slips, but go back and watch the fight again. You tell me how many times he was able to slip outside the backhand.
So I take he did slip. He was slipping now. I don't think it was deliberate. I think Cleverly has a fairly frenetic style of throwing his hands and moving his body. The law of averages, it's almost like the blanket bomb model when yourself and the roads are out on a night out and you go through all the women. By default, you're going to get one or two. In a similar sense, Cleverly throws those.
But we're not married men. Let's just remember that while we throw shots here, we're not married men.
That's what I was saying. As in a similar sense, Cleverly throws punches, and he moves his head and moves his body occasionally, moves his feet sometimes. So coincidentally, some of that results in him slipping shots, dodging shots, and some of it results in him actually hitting his target. It's fairly rare he hits the target. It's fairly rare he cleanly slips a shot. But I don't think this is deliberate or planned or calculated.
Like I said,
in my opinion.
Watch the fights again. You'll see there's a lot of stuff he does there which he hadn't done before. So I'm prepared to give him a chance and go, if you do this again, I'll believe it.
So reverting back to the...
Braehmer figured it out pretty quickly. And then Braehmer said, well, actually, I'm going to go back to the distance I was boxing Macronelli at. These guys are all from the same stock. Let me take half a step back and start hitting this guy. So let me see him properly and let me start hitting him. Which is what Braehmer started to do as you got to rounds 4 and 5, where he just took that half step back, bang, and he started to hit the target a bit cleaner. And then at that point, Cleverly was like, I'm in this do or die mode. I need to find another gear myself. So it was an interesting fight in that sense. It's not, it's not one for the ages, unfortunately, but better than we expected.
So I think what I'm taking from what you're saying, and I think it's very interesting, is that perhaps this whole idea of guts, glory, is too simple. It was definitely Cleverly's approach. A bit all on the line, but Braehmer was more calculated. He made a business decision in there. Weighed up his own risks, his own rewards. Someone at a certain age probably trying to cash out from the sport, and maybe, as you said, Terry, made a sensible decision. What I want to go into now is a subject that's close to, I know, Junior the Rhodes Johnson is his heart. A subject that he's fairly passionate about. When we talk about heart, desire, is the great Ricky Burns. Junior, what did you make of Friday evening?
Well,
Heart, desire, no?
No. Run, Ricky, run. Ricky was on the back foot for most of the fight. I think in the first 4 rounds, he couldn't find his range. He wasn't really connecting well at all. He was just on the back foot. The guy was straight up and down, as Mayweather likes to say, with no frills. I thought Relikh could have been more... tried to cut off the ring more, showed a bit more ring generalship. The scores, oh my days, I've never seen anything like it. I had Relikh winning 7-5. I had him winning the first 4 rounds. I know one or two of those rounds could be debatable towards Burns. I mean, he hit him with a body shot in the 3rd round and hurt him, but he didn't do anything else in that round. And I had him winning the last 3 rounds and Burns winning the majority of the middle round. So I had it like 7-5. But to get a scorecard of 108 to 110, I don't know. Eddie Hearn must be offering some big bucks.
118, 110 or something. You know,
yeah, 118, 110 or something like that.
Yeah, it was. I tend to agree.
Wide margin.
I tend to agree with you.
I disagree. Obviously,
I just want to mention.
Yeah, go on.
No, I just want to mention one thing. That referee, Howard Foster, he needs to get the sack now, man. It's 2 or 3 times now that he's really made some really big errors. That was a knockdown in the last round, I think. If you look at it, Relikh caught him with an uppercut. I think it was an uppercut.
And then it was a hook and
then he was falling
shot.
over. Yeah, then he was falling over. Yeah, it was a knockdown to me, and that would have been decisive in the fight for me. I mean, he gets booed every time he referees a fight. He did it in the last Joshua fight as well with Brazil. Like, Brazil was rocked and he jumped in. Joshua was like, "What are you doing?" You know, and obviously the classic Froch grows one. That referee, I don't want to see him referee another fight, in my opinion. And he needs to get that judge that did the Mayweather and Canelo fight. He needs to get that treatment, man. He needs to be
Junior. I agree with you on the knockdown wholeheartedly. I like Ricky Burns. I like the way he fights. I totally agree with you on that point. It was.
What do you like about the way he fights? What do you like about the way he fights, Adrian? #Greenland. What do you like about the way he fights? Enlighten us.
If we're gonna talk about guts and glory, I feel like sometimes we always revert back to the kind of traditional ethos of standing there, trading, coming out with a bloodied face, and you've really put it all on the line to win. But I feel like with Braehmer being strategic, I feel like Burns was strategic. I think no one really knew much about Relikh and the style that he fights in, and I think Ricky Burns was quite similar in that. So in the first round, I even said to my friends that I was with, I was like, this guy's not bad. Like, he was throwing some nice shots. He looked fit, energetic. He was throwing flurries as well, 2s, 3s, 4s. And Ricky looked scared. He went back to the corner after the first round, and they kind of had to reset their model of how they're going to fight him. So he had to run. But I feel like the strategy of running didn't show a lack of guts, because it allowed him to come in and fight in spurts rather than just trading. Because I feel like if he did trade and show aimless, unstrategic guts, he would have got taken out of there. So I feel like there's guts there, but it's not. There's different types, and we can't always lean towards the traditional stand there, trade, and have a dust up.
That's a good point. It takes guts to have the composure to stick to a game plan and fight on the back foot. That's a very good point. What I would like to say before we've got to hear what Terry has to say about this topic about Ricky Burns. But what I'd like to say is, Relikh, if that's how you pronounce his name correctly, apologies.
Relikh, I believe.
You know, Relikh. He had some power. He was energetic early on. His lateral movement was atrocious. His punch variety was limited as well. I think Ricky Burns has a greater punch variety. Relikh was more powerful and more intense when he attacked, and he came back strong. In terms of the assessment of who won what section of the fight, Junior at the Roy Johnson, bang on. Relikh won the first 4, Burns won the middle ones. Relikh won the last 3 and scored a knockdown. Anywhere outside of Scotland, then I'm not sure Ricky Burns would walk away with the title.
Ricky Burns has been getting these decisions for a while. I mean, the Bertrand decision,
and that's what I'm about to get onto. I know you're chumbling. That's what I'm about to get onto. That. He got, it seemed like he got a favourable decision, at least a favourable score. Even if he was going to get the decision, it should have been a fair reflection, which was a very tight result.
I think there was a round in it. I believe there was a round in it.
Yeah, there's probably a round in it. Listening to the commentators is quite interesting, with them saying Burns is dominating, he's going to start teeing off. And we're wondering, what am I watching versus what am I listening to? The two don't add up. But Ricky Burns, he's marketed, and Eddie Hearn is a marketing master. We know this. He's marketed. He's built up as this guy with heart. He's gutsy, ferocious, intense, hard-working boxer who does a simple thing straight up and down, but does them well. Keeps coming back. When he's got someone under pressure, he's pummeling them. He's teeing up on them. When he's under pressure, he's on the back foot and picking his shots well. This is a hearty, ferocious, determined guy. And that's been kind of the story that's been built for him, really. Probably from the time which he signed to Matchroom. He's probably the archetype or the model in terms of a boxer with heart, desire, guts. Terry, what are your thoughts on how this profile has been built, its value and its genuine nature for a fighter such as Ricky Burns?
We forget how long Ricky Burns has been about. Cleverly turned pro in 2005, and I think when Cleverly turned pro, I think Ricky Burns was on the same card, and Burns had already had 12 fights by then.
He's had 46 fights, Simon Burns.
Yeah, so to expect him to fight the way that he was fighting as a 130-pounder at this stage in his career, or even as a 135-pounder, is asking a lot, because he's fighting bigger men who are probably, he's not a natural 140 guy, so he's fighting bigger men now. I'd expect him to be a bit more circumspect in how he boxes. Do I think he won against Relikh? You would have been mad for a 7-5 either way. I wasn't precious about whichever way it went. But, you know, we go back to Zlatan Cannon, when, you know, the commentator's view was Burns has done enough to win this comfortably. Zlatan Cannon, in my opinion, did more of the damage, deserved to win that. We also then look at Ray Beltran, where how on earth they said that was a draw is beyond me. But Ricky Burns, he's that guy, you know, the word Eddie uses is relentless. He has that thing of, I'll keep doing something for the duration of the fight. Whether it's effective or not is irrelevant. You know, it gives the impression, especially to the guys in row Z, that you're doing something meaningful. So I can see why he's always in these sort of shady decisions, because he's always there or thereabouts. I think the easiest way to deal with him is the way Crawford did, and just give him a hiding from start to finish and just basically stop him.
Yeah, I agree. With respect to Ricky Burns, I mean, the guy keeps working. He keeps, obviously, stamina. He trains hard. He does have guts. No doubt about it. But I think, and Junior, your thoughts. I mean, remember the Gonzalez decision when Gonzalez beat the hell out of him for 6-7 rounds, and then mysteriously had a niggle in his wrist. Or the Beltran decision. What was it that Burns was doing for the Beltran decision? That where he was still doing something. What was that something? Because it looked to me like he got a beating.
That's the thing. That's where this mythical Ricky Burns with a huge heart comes from. He was fighting with a broken jaw, so so they gave him praise for that. But that was clearly, anybody that watched that fight, that was clearly a loss for Ricky Burns. He's been getting his decisions for a while. Like you said with the Gonzalez fight, the guy was dominating him for the majority of those 6-7 rounds that the fight was lasted, and then he got some sort. I think he was a dislocated shoulder as well. I think he dislocated his shoulder and out the blue, retired on his stool. And Ricky's been living a lucky charmed life for the last couple of fights, really. Against proper competition, he's been living a charmed life. Talking about how he's been marketed as this hero, I think it started with Frank Warren when he was with Warren, and I think Warren was protecting him a lot from certain fights. If we look at his championship wins, he won the title at lightweight, I believe, against Casillas. Yeah, and it was an interim fight, and then Marquez went up to welterweight to fight, and that belt got relinquished. So he got lucky and won that belt, and then Braehmer was number one mandatory for that belt, and then Ricky moved up, and then he did it again. Hearn's different. He'll throw you in a deep end and see if you can swim. So he said, look, right, you're going to have to fight Braehmer. And now Ricky's, going for the money. He's at the end of his career now. He might as well go to Las Vegas and have his swan song there.
So the roads.
To be fair, when he signed with Hearn as well, I think there were some contractual disputes going on with Warren. So there were some issues in terms of judgment, perhaps, in maybe fights that were agreed to, and potentially even in preparation. The mindset that Burns was in. But I think he's a guy who, in terms of boxing talent, pure talent, is limited. But in terms of work ethic, he's definitely up there.
So just to touch on that, obviously he's saying his luck. He's been riding his luck for some time now, and the gut side of things. Obviously the agent. I'm sure we'll touch on this in the future, but the agent Broner's obviously up next. That's how it's looking. If they can get the negotiations right, Braehmer seen on Snapchat. Turning up in Vegas, I believe, or somewhere, just partying on Instagram. Do you think his guts will be enough to get him through that test? Just obviously an initial kind of insight into your thoughts, or do you think it's going to fall short?
No, I see it being very similar to the Gavin Rees-Braehmer fight. I think Braehmer's going to hurt him quite badly. He's going to cut off the ring better than Relikh did and just hurt him, sit down on his shots and hurt him quite badly. He's going to knock him down quite a few times, and I don't see it going past the 6th round, to be honest.
I tend to agree. I doubt that they'll actually have that fight. I don't think Burns will agree to it. I don't think it's a sensible fight for Burns to take. I think he can have another good 4 or 5 fights and make good money rather than having one with Braehmer and being devastated. Right, look, Burns. Right, look, the guy has heart. You know, he's been fortunate. His best thing to do is to continue fighting in Scotland in terms of victories, in terms of his profile, in terms of him making good money. He's going to have to take a risk. He'll probably lose against one of these top tier fighters in the US or somewhere else. But you know, no guts, no glory. And I think he's a man who has the heart, has a desire to take the risk. You know, I think that's clear. One more fight we need to touch upon though, and this maybe didn't live up to expectations within the ring, would be the Dillian Whyte Ian Lewison fight. Gutsy performance from Lewison, I think we agree, you know, because he was taking some punishment. Adrian, #, what did you make of the fight?
It was an interesting one. Like you said, if we're gonna kind of cover the guts and glory side of things, I think Lewison showed a lot of guts. Like he said, he took a lot of punishment. He came out from the beginning. There wasn't really much jab action going on. It's more the overhand right. He kind of saw a flaw with the overhand right, and he tried to utilize that in close. He was throwing the hooks consistently, and as much as Dillian did look like he was in control for many parts of the fight, leading with a jab, I do feel like at any moment one of those hooks could have connected and caused some damage. For me, it didn't live up to all of the hype initially. I think the problem here is pure and simple. In the lead up to a lot of these fights, Dillian Whyte is presenting himself as a banger who can take these guys out within 5-6 rounds, and he's not really displaying that since the Joshua fight. He's not really displayed a key marquee YouTube highlight reel knockout, you know, guy flat on the back. And I think that's the problem. I don't think he lacks guts at all. I think he's a very gutsy guy, but I feel like he's adapted his style a bit more, and he's trying to be a bit more refined in how he fights. There was a lot of jab. He comes in flashes. He'll show the flurries, and there's some vindictive shots in there. But I just feel like if you're gonna market yourself as
the body snatcher,
the guy that's putting bodies in a black bag and burying them at 3 a.m. in the morning. Do you know what I mean? In a dark alley. He hasn't really displayed that, and that's the problem. That's the problem for me. Obviously, selling fights, but it didn't live up. It was a good fight. It was entertaining to watch as a boxing fan, but I feel like what it was made to be, it didn't live up to it for me at all.
Yeah, basically, it's two area level heavyweights fighting for a British title.
Yeah, that's kind of what made it exciting. I mean, that's what built it up for me as a South Londoner. It was like the Battle of Brixton, the Battle of South London, being with the British title on the line. The build-up was exciting. I think we've made some real. We pointed out Dillian's flaws in previous podcasts as well, and I think they were very evident today. I remember Terry, you said he skates when he with his feet and stuff, and I mean, in the Joshua fight, it looked like he was on the Stratton Ice rink. He was skating all over the place. But in this fight, I watched him, and his stance was really poor. His feet were very close together, and I felt like you said, with this body snatcher, and he was knocking people out in the early part of his career. I felt that he's not being able to sit down on his punches with that stance. It all comes from the feet. You know, he's not being able to sit down and get the punches. I saw some good body shots from Dillian, and I saw some better work. I mean, he's improved his cardio. I mean, that is one real improvement that we can see from Dillian. He's been training in Loughborough with the sports scientist, and it's worked well. You can see it on him. He looks a lot healthier. But he needs to improve his feet. Definitely. I'd say keep Dillian at the domestic level for a good 3-4 more fights. Don't put him up to world level until he's had a good 30 fights under his belt, and Tibbs can make the improvements on his feet and his jab especially. He did some good jabs. There was a couple good jabs, and then they were followed by lazy arm jabs, you know? So it's consistency as well in his punching that he needs to improve on.
I think that's a good observation. I mean, what I make of it, and within the theme of, I think, in guts and glory, I think because it takes guts as well to commit to a boxing style. It takes guts to work behind the jab sometimes if it doesn't suit you. On Dillian, I don't think his feet will change necessarily because his balance and stance, I think that's been engineered into him, his natural body, his natural physiology. What I've seen is improvements in his hands. So he works behind the jabs. He throws combos in a much more slick manner now. He was fighting a target that wasn't really moving. Let's be clear. So Ian, I think, boxes a lot on his head movement is based on reflex. That's his natural style, which he's very good at. But just maybe due to fitness, his body movement wasn't as effective as it could have been. He wasn't as dynamic as he could have been. So he was pretty much standing there to take the shots. Although the head movement did look very slick, very crisp at times, and you could see why this guy was, is still rated so highly and has such credibility. Dillian is gutsy. It takes guts as well to continue to commit to throwing those body shots, to commit to trying to be the body snatcher. But I think he's realised that as he moves up in the calibre of his opposition, he needs to have more strings to his bow. And he's never going to be a finesse, style fighter, but being able to win a fight on points, being able to outwork someone, I think is something that he's probably working on. With Ian Lewsion, I thought we saw incredible guts. Remember, this is someone, let's be clear, he hasn't got the same infrastructure that Dillian Whyte has in terms of training, hasn't committed to the sport in the same way, despite having, I think many people would agree, the greater talent. But what we saw was great guts. The guy went 10 rounds. People said he couldn't do it. No, sorry, not 10. Was it 8
12,
maybe?
12.
No, he went 10. He went 10, yeah. With 10 rounds, people said he couldn't do it. He took some punishment. He was there to fight. And I think he deserves great credit.
Do you think that was due to the pace of the fight as well? Because it was quite slow tempo. Do you think he was able to survive that because of the pace, or?
I think it was a slow tempo and there was slow movement in that fight. I think Dillian was trying to set a high tempo. To be honest, I think that was his tactic, to set a high tempo. But I think he didn't set the highest tempo he could have safely because he was making sure he was avoiding, the swings or big right hands from Lewison.
One thing I was impressed about with Dillian, and Terry, I want your analysis on this, is that even after the fight, he was saying that he was being more cautious rather than go for the knockout. Do you think he's learned more boxing strategy under Mark Tibbs, or would you put that down to?
There comes a point where you need to stop and press in Brixton High Road because those aren't guys who buy your tickets. So you got to fight to win. And when you work with the Tibbs will get you to fight in order to win. It's one thing I'll give. So if you go back to the days of Jimmy Tibbs and Nigel Benn, it was far more blood and thunder. So the theme of guts and glory, Jimmy Tibbs was very much that with a veneer of skill over it. I think Mark Tibbs has taken it on a level, and the plan is very much we need a strategy to win. So they knew with Ian, if Ian came to bomb, all you had to do with Ian Lewison was control the middle with very little effort, because Ian Lewison doesn't jab and doesn't throw many dead straight right hands. So you could almost walk around the ring with Ian and put both hands in front of your face, and all the punches would do is hit your shoulders. And Dillian figured that out once he got his distance. Jabs, straight shots and uppercuts were enough to win the fight, and were enough to discourage Ian. So it was simple, and I'm almost surprised Don Charles sent Ian Lewison in with the tactics that he did, or maybe those weren't the tactics, I don't know, but Ian didn't offer anything. He didn't try and take anything out of Dillian Whyte and say, well, actually, I know you're going to try and outbox me, so what I'm going to do, while you're trying to figure out how to do that, I'm going to keep smashing you to the body until your tank empties.
Yeah, well, look, you're right. I agree. Once Dillian had established the range from round 3, maybe there should have been a change in tactic from Lewison's side.
Boxing Ed, sorry, Terry. Let me just kind of finish up with you on that one. With Ian Lewison, then, in terms of guts, he showed a fair amount of guts, irrespective of the outcome. Do you feel that with that makeup, with that DNA of the way he fights, if he does take his strength and condition a bit more seriously, will that kind of ethos that he has take him through? If he gets in great shape, how far can he go?
It's interesting we're talking about guts in light of the condition Ian Lewison came in. But my own take on it is he's talented. There's no dispute about this. I think we discussed this before, where his amateur record speaks for itself. But it's down to him. Has he got the humility to look himself in the mirror and go, I need to rip up the plans and start again? just to illustrate the point about Ian Lewison for record, his career low as a heavyweight was 248 pounds. His career high, 275 pounds. That's the sign of someone who's not in control of what they're doing. You know, and he shouldn't have even been 248 pounds to begin with. He's not that tall to justify that. You know, that's Anthony Joshua's fighting weight. So, will Ian Lewison have the heart and the courage at 35 years old to come down to 227, 230 pounds? If he did that, I'd take him a lot more seriously and he'd be a hell of a threat, because I don't think he'd lose any power. In fact, when this is your living, you have no excuse for coming in out of shape. Like, you have nothing else to do all day but lose weight. So it concerns me. I think it's the ball's in Ian Lewison's court. The skills there, the talents there, the powers there. We will know by what he weighs in his next fight. I'd like to see him in around 230 pounds. You know, let's see what he does there. Sacrifice a bit of bulk for a bit more speed and velocity in the punches. I'd also like to see a bit more humility from him and go, actually, I can't keep trying to bomb people out. Let me try a new approach. Let me start working the body before I work the head. Just become a better boxer, because he's probably got 2 or 3 years in him. He's not shop worn yet. So, I mean, it'll be up to him.
But gents, no guts, no glory. But congratulations to Chamberlain, Isaac. Congratulations to Lewison. Congratulations to Cleverly. Congratulations to Ricky Burns. Some great fights the past couple of weeks. No guts, no glory. Clearly more complex than just heart. Business decisions, fitness, longevity, and plans really come into it. Good topic. But Adrian, let's round up on the news.
Okay, guys, so make sure that you look into www.boxmediatv.com. We've got Box Media TV exclusives, and obviously we have Box Media TV news as well. Just going to run through a few bits that you can find on the website, videos with more details, more information. So first and foremost, just you guys, quick rundown. Luis Ortiz has signed to the Matchroom Boxing stable. Eddie Hearn with another shrewd move. What do you think of this? Just a quick rundown, each man.
Bought him as a blocker. Very, very smart piece of business. So you use him as your attack dog instead of Bellew now. So Eddie Hearn knows, now that Fury stepped out of the picture, everyone's looking for the British domestic fight, which is, hey, Joshua. He doesn't want Joshua to take that fight. So distract everyone by going, well, there's this guy, Luis Ortiz, that's willing to fight David Haye. Why is David Haye running from it? You know, because let's be honest, Ortiz couldn't get fights because people didn't want to fight him. There's nothing Eddie Hearn can do to say, well, actually, do you want to get your face punched in by Luis Ortiz? The only way you can have him of value is to say, well, we'll have you for 3 fights, but in that time, we need you to make noise about David Haye to distract, the public from calling for the Joshua fight with Haye.
I couldn't agree more. And in the same vein, you're able to manage Ortiz's next few fights to make sure he doesn't get himself in a managed position to fight Joshua. It's simple.
I agree to an extent. I think it's a power move, man. He's trying to monopolise the heavyweight division right now. He's got 2 of the key players and quite a good few other heavyweights at his control. I do think he can. I do think he's going towards a super fight with Joshua. I think he will take his time getting there with it. He's talking about putting Ortiz on the next Joshua card, which should hopefully be Klitschko. And we'll see. I don't want to see Dillian Whyte fed to Ortiz at all, man. Dillian Whyte's not ready for that. I would like Dillian to stay at domestic level. But I see Price and Ortiz being a real viable fight. I mean, Price was making noise about, I want Joshua. I knocked him out in sparring. So let's see what you can do against Ortiz. Earn your shot. Like you guys said, a blocker in a good way as well.
I'm not sure about Price Ortiz, but don't know how that will end. But next up, we got a few bits from Tyson Fury. Just touching on some of the incidents, being stripped of the belts and so forth. But he also claimed, I've taken loads of cocaine. I've taken it for years. Why shouldn't a sportsman be able to do these types of things in his spare time? Obviously, it's a sensitive subject, but I guess just your thoughts on him and the recent social media outbursts. Is that been necessary, or should he have kept quiet?
From my perspective, I think first and foremost we have to acknowledge the greatest heavyweight achievement in British boxing history of the modern era. I mean, post Lennox Lewis, Lennox Lewis's achievements. Let's really give this guy credit as a pure boxer for what he is and what he's achieved. Number one. Number two, he's going through obviously a difficult time. A lot of it, he claimed, was instigated by treatment, by the IBF, for example, stealing his title, which they did. They stole it, very unjustly. And he has been given a hard time. At the same time, he gives the public a hard time. I think he's very funny, very entertaining. I think he'll be back. I think whatever he's going through has nothing to do with his boxing. And I think he's probably in a better mental condition than he's letting on.
With Tyson Fury, I sum it up like this. There's a thin line between genius and insanity. Tyson Fury is a genius. I remember the Fury camp always saying, "Oh, Tyson's only fighting in first gear. He's only fighting in first gear." And I thought, nah, man, that's just what Tyson is. He's just a slugger and whatnot, And until I saw him fight Derek Chisora, I thought, okay, yeah, he's got a bit more to his game. Then he unleashed it all on Klitschko. We saw a guy that, for his size, with great feet, great great feints and stuff, and he boxed extremely well. He's a genius, he plays the mind games well. Unfortunately, the stress at the top is a lot, and I feel for Tyson Fury, and I hope he makes a full recovery because the heavyweight division needs him.
Agreed.
Terry?
I pray for him. I think in boxing, there's a real lack of mentors in the sport. I think because it's such an individual sport, everyone believes they're going to make it on their own terms, and history's shown us it's very hard to do that. Look at the infrastructure around Joshua just to keep him on the straight and narrow. Also look at people who have fallen after the sport. We need something where some of these older guys can talk, because Fury went from being a despised traveller who was, a pain because he was quite good at boxing, to being the guy that did the impossible. And as soon as he did the impossible, they just attacked him. And can you imagine that? The one time you want people to really acknowledge what you've done, and they're just trying to pull you down. Now, I can't conceive of what that must do to you mentally. And then all they want you to do is have a rematch with the guy so he beats you up again. And it goes to show, it's one of these things. I guess, these guys have to have a certain degree of contempt for fans, because you only need to read some of the tweets Fury gets to go, why would you even say that sort of thing to him? Do you know what I mean? It's been tough for him.
I totally agree. Sort of prevention is better than the cure. I think in boxing there needs to be maybe an internal, maybe organisation or something which supports the fighters a bit more. So outside of the governing bodies, so that it's kind of like a PFA that they have in football, something similar for boxing. They may have that, but it's clearly not working. But just leading on, again, another Eddie Hearn kind of feature here. He's claiming there's going to be a big announcement next week for AJ. So do you believe AJ Klitschko? There's been a lot of rumours about that. Is that going to happen on the 26th of November?
No.
No.
That's simple.
So the problem we now have is no one's looking at the 26th. Klitschko's booking the 10th of December. Apparently Frank Warren has booked the MEN for the 10th of December for Hughie Fury. Although I heard he's been gazumped by Hearn for that one, but these are just rumours. And Hayes looking to get the Millennium Stadium for December 10th. So it's interesting that we're in December. That territory is good, because that's the earliest opportunity after Fury would get stripped for the belts. So people are basically, it's a massive wait and see, but Vladimir isn't going to fight unless he gets a lion's share of the Joshua purse, and they're not going to give that to him. So he'll fight on the 10th of December, maybe against Vac or one of those sorts of guys, and he'll still make the same amount of money, so he's okay with that.
I disagree. I think the Joshua Klitschko fight will happen. I think it'll be pushed back to December. I'm not sure about the 10th. Everybody seems to be vying for this. Like you said, this 10th of December. Hayes come out and announced he's fighting on the 10th. Speculation, I reckon it's going to be Lucas Brown for the WBA regular. Parker is making moves to fight Andy Ruiz around the same time as well. So everyone's vying for these belts that that Fury is likely to be stripped of. I do see the Joshua Klitschko fight as happening in December, and I do think now that Eddie Hearn's signed Luis Ortiz, I do think the WBA will be up for grabs in it as well. So it'll be the WBA, maybe the IBO, and obviously AJ's belt, the IBF.
Boxing Ed?
I don't think it's going to happen. Josh Klitschko, I don't see it as making sense for either fighter at all, particularly for Klitschko. I think this is someone who is probably looking at the next maybe 18 months of his career before he signs out. So he has to make sensible business decisions and boxing ones. And he's not going to go into a fight where he's fairly likely to get knocked out. Because in that fight you have two people very similar style, but Joshua has slightly greater power and aggression, versus Klitschko is probably slightly better controlling the range. But I think Joshua has too much power, energy, and youthfulness to be controlled. So I think that's too great a risk, even though the money would be a lot too great a risk. Well, or maybe not, as Terry described. It's too great a risk for Klitschko to take. Makes no sense. I think, when Eddie Hearn says he's making a big announcement, I mean, that can mean everything or nothing all at once. Eddie Hearn is, he's an excellent marketer, an expert at saying nothing and everything all at once. So I doubt very much that it's Klitschko Joshua.
Fighting Ed, do you think Klitschko sees weakness in Joshua now? I think he, taking him inexperienced now, maybe, his opportunity to beat him rather than I
think anyone who is into boxing and observes it from a technical perspective can of course see the flaws in any fighter, and I think Klitschko can of course see the weaknesses in Joshua, ability to control range, maybe slight lack of versatility, maybe slightly static or slightly stiff in his movement, but these aren't weaknesses that Klitschko can exploit because they're the same weaknesses that Klitschko has.
It just reminds me of when Lennox took on Michael Grant. Michael Grant was the next big American heavyweight, and Lennox actually said he wants to fight him now while he can see the weaknesses, while he chinks him in his armor, and he knocked him out in 5-6 rounds. I do think Klitschko's got a better chance than people are giving him for in the Joshua fight. I do favour Joshua, but I do think he's got a bigger chance than people are giving him.
Cool.
Oh no, absolutely, he's got a good chance. Absolutely, but I would actually call it maybe a 60-40 fight in favour of Joshua. But we shall see.
Difficult one to call. Very difficult. Both fighters, I guess, at different positions in their career, but I don't know. I couldn't really call that one right now. Just the final bit of news leading on Floyd Money Mayweather, outspoken as always. Somebody who I base my life around, minus the zeros in my bank account. And he's just basically come out and made a statement saying that obviously within sort of the welterweight division, this example, a lot of fighters avoiding each other, Danny Garcia namely. And he's saying that fighters now are kind of demanding too bigger purses. He said that when he started off, when he was at top rank, they were throwing him small sums of money, £10,000, £20,000, and he was taking them. And he's saying that fighters who haven't really, I guess, done enough at this stage are still demanding big purses. Do you think that's affecting the game?
But he created this. This is exactly. This is the world Floyd created.
I think what his point is that he got to the stage where he could create it, but he's saying they haven't earned their just dues to do so. That's more the angle that he's taking with it.
But it's like anything, isn't it? You listen to a Mobb Deep tune and punching kids in the face is cool, but you don't understand the paranoia that comes with it, the general anger and angst. And Floyd never shares that. Floyd just makes out like his life is one long cakewalk. So guys like Danny Garcia are happy to say, I'll fight a bum for $2 million. And the problem was Al Heyman, when he needed to build his PBC stable, was like, I'll pay you $2 million.
I don't think Floyd genuinely has an opinion on it. I think he's just bored and occasionally will make such statements to stay relevant. I think he's completely correct and probably bemused as to why people like Danny Garcia are demanding these multi-million-dollar purses for fights when they haven't actually done much. But I don't think he genuinely cares that much. I think he just pops off these statements every now and again, just because he's bored.
Junior?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Floyd and Al Heyman have created this money money team effect, really. I think Floyd's just frustrated, like you said. I think he's trying to find an easy 50th fight, and I think he wanted Danny Garcia. And Danny Garcia came out with the figure of, we want 20 million. 20 million. I mean, come on, man. You've never made 20 million yet in your career, probably. You know, so that's the way Floyd's seeing it. It's an interesting perspective because now he's not just a fighter; he's a promoter. You know, so he's seeing it from two sides now, and probably he's regretting some of the stuff he said. You know, he's trying to turn down the money aspect of things.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of come back on him 360 in some respects with his current role. But yeah, guys, thanks for your input. Like I said, boxmediatv.com, latest news, entertainment, and education. Over to you, Ed.
Yeah, but look, great topic to get today, guys. You know, Guts Glory is brought on a lot of different aspects of the boxing game, and also the news. You know, we talked about mental health, we talked about promotion, and I'm feeling really introspective and subdued. You know, I'm going to really sit down and give this one some thought because it's really brought up a lot of topics that I think are very, very interesting. Listeners out there, I hope you enjoy and give us your feedback. What do you think about some of this very, very topical stuff we discussed today? So, guys, this is Box Media Talks, brought to you by Box Media TV. If you're in the ring this week, if you're sparring on the back, keep your guard up. Speak to you soon. We're out.